They say the desert remembers. Every hoofprint, every cry, every lie buried beneath that red sand stays there, whispering through the wind for anyone still willing to listen. I never used to believe in ghosts, not the kind that rattle chains or haunt old saloons, but the kind that live inside a man's memory. The kind you can't wash off no matter how much whiskey you pour down your throat. It was the summer of '79 when I took up work at Red Creek Ranch, way out past the hills where even the buzzards looked tired. The air there was dry and mean, and the land stretched on forever, cracked and waiting for rain that never came. Old man Harlan owned the place. Folks called him a rancher, but he was more than that. He was part of the land itself. Tough, quiet, and carved out of the same stone the mesas were made from. His hands were thick with scars and sun, and his eyes had that faraway look of someone who'd seen too much and said too little. I was just a drifter then. Didn't have much to my name except a saddle, a busted rifle, and a past I didn't talk about. Harlan took me in anyway. Said a man's history don't matter if he can work hard and ride straight. I figured I'd stay till the next season, earn some pay and move on. But fate had a way of changing a man's plans out there in the dust. Life at Red Creek was simple, until the day it wasn't. The morning started before the sun did, with the lowing of cattle and the creak of leather saddles. The evenings ended with the crackle of the campfire and the coyotes howling in the distance. For a while it felt like peace, but sometimes when the wind turned just right, I'd catch Harlan staring off toward the canyon, like he was waiting for something or someone. It happened one evening when the sky was bleeding orange and purple, the kind of sunset that made you forget the world could be cruel. Harlan sent me to fix the old well by the east pasture. The ground there had been dry for years, but he wanted it checked anyway. Said water was life, even if it was just a rumor out there. When I got there, my boot struck something hard under the dirt. Not stone, not metal fence, something heavier. I dug with my hands, and the dust cleared off the corner of an old iron box, rusted shut and half buried like it had been forgotten by time itself. I called for Harlan, and when he came, he looked at that box like he'd seen a ghost. He didn't speak for a long while, just stared. Then he knelt down slow, brushed off the dirt, and forced the lid open with his knife. Inside were papers, ledgers, deeds, and a thick book bound in cracked leather. I remember the smell of it, old ink and secrets. Harlan flipped through it, his face getting harder with every page. "What is it?" I asked. He closed the book tight like it might bite him if it saw daylight too long. "Something that ain't supposed to exist," he said. "Something men would kill to keep quiet." The first rider came just after dawn. Black horse, dust trailing behind like smoke. Then another and another. By the time the sun cleared the hills, 6 of them had surrounded the ranch. They wore long coats and kerchiefs pulled high over their faces. The one in front had a star pinned to his chest. Sheriff Markham. I knew the name. He ran the whole county like it was his own kingdom. Folks said he'd cleaned up the town, but everyone knew he'd just buried the dirt deeper. He tipped his hat to Harlan. "Morning, old man. Heard you've been digging where you shouldn't." Harlan didn't answer, just stood there calm as a rattlesnake before it strikes. Markham smiled, thin and cold. "Now I ain't here to start trouble. Just need what you found yesterday. I reckon it don't belong to you," Harlan said. "This land's mine. Everything under it, too. That includes whatever you boys are so nervous about." The sheriff's smile vanished. "You don't want to test me, Harlan. Hand it over and we'll forget this ever happened." But Harlan just spat in the dirt and said, "You forget too much already." That was all it took. The men jumped off their horses, guns drawn. They hit us hard fast. I swung at one of them and caught a rifle butt to the jaw. Next thing I knew, I was face down in the dust, hands tied behind my back. They dragged us to the windmill, ropes and all. Sheriff Markham looked down at us, his boots planted firm in the sand. "You two just bought yourselves a lesson in silence," he said. "You don't go poking around in things that don't concern you." Then they hoisted us up, upside down, ropes tied to the crossbeam of that windmill. The blood rushed to my head so fast I could hear my heart pounding in my ears. The world spun, the sun burning my eyes. I tried to breathe, but all I tasted was dust and copper. Harlan was next to me, hanging still, quiet. Then he whispered low enough that only I could hear, "Don't give them the satisfaction, boy." "Not one scream." Markham leaned close to him. "You know what happens to folks who talk too much, old man?" Harlan just smiled, slow and dangerous. "I ain't done talking yet." The sheriff struck him across the face with his pistol. Blood sprayed across the sand. "They left us there to bake in the heat. Said they'd be back by sunset. For a while I thought that was it. That we'd just hang there until the desert took us. But Harlan wasn't ready to die. He started swinging, slow at first, then harder, using the weight of his body to loosen the rope. I didn't understand what he was doing till the beam creaked. The old man was breaking the damn windmill itself. With a final jerk, the wood cracked and he dropped hard into the dirt, landing on his shoulder. He grunted but didn't waste a second. Rolled over, grabbed a shard of glass from the ground and cut me loose. We crawled to the barn, half blind and dizzy. I thought we'd run, but Harlan had other plans. He went straight for his rifle, an old Winchester he kept oiled and ready. "They think they can hang a man and walk away," he said, loading rounds. "Let's show 'em different." When the riders came back, the sun was low, painting the land red. They weren't expecting a fight. Harlan took the first shot from the shadows, dropped one of them clean off his horse. Chaos broke loose. I grabbed a pistol off a fallen man and fired wild. Bullets tore through the air, sparks flying off the barn walls. Horses screamed and scattered. I saw the sheriff duck behind the trough, yelling orders, but Harlan was already moving. Steady, calm, like every bullet had its name on it. When the dust cleared, 3 of the 6 were dead. 2 had ridden off toward the hills, and the sheriff, he was nowhere to be seen. Just his hat and badge lay in the mud, glinting in the dying light. Harlan stood there, breathing hard, face streaked with blood and sweat. He stared at that badge for a long time, then kicked it into the dirt. That night we buried the bodies behind the windmill, said no words over them. The desert didn't need ceremony. It took what it wanted. I asked Harlan what we were going to do now. He just said, "We don't stay where the law's gone rotten." We packed before sunrise, left the ranch behind. I remember looking back once, seeing that windmill leaning crooked in the morning light, rope still swinging in the breeze. It looked like a gallows now, a warning for anyone who thought the truth was worth digging up. We rode west for days, keeping off the main roads, moving through canyons and dry riverbeds. Harlan barely spoke. When he finally did, it was under a sky full of stars, the firelight dancing across his weathered face. "That ledger," he said, "it's proof. Proof that men in power have been selling off ranch land to bandits for years. Folks losing homes thinking it was the law doing right by them. Turns out the law was the thief all along." I asked him what he planned to do with it. He said, "Take it somewhere it matters." I didn't know what that meant then, but I trusted him. We reached Carson's Bluff a week later, a dusty little town with one saloon, a church, and too many eyes. Harlan left me with the horses and walked into the telegraph office. Said he needed to send word to someone, never told me who. He came out an hour later, calm as ever, but his hand never left the grip of his gun. "Time to ride," he said. We didn't make it far before gunfire split the air. The sheriff had friends, more than we counted on. Bullets chewed through the dirt, horses screaming. We dove for cover behind a boulder. I fired till my hands shook, Harlan steady beside me, returning shot for shot. When it was over, 2 men lay still. The rest rode off. But Harlan was hit, shoulder bad. I tried to stop the bleeding, but he just smiled through gritted teeth. "Ain't no bullet made that can kill me before I finish what I started. It took weeks, but I found that, Judge." He read every page, face turning pale as the truth sank in. Within a month, Markham's name was ash across the territory. His men scattered, the ranches reclaimed, and the land, well, it started to heal. Years have passed since then. I've drifted from town to town, never staying long. Sometimes when the wind shifts and the sky turns that same blood-red color, I think about Red Creek Ranch, about Harlan hanging beside me, eyes full of defiance. They tried to hang us upside down for knowing a deadly secret, but we didn't die that day. No, sir. That day was when we learned what it really means to live free, and the desert, it still remembers.